Tony Ware is arenas manager here at the MCG, and of course one of the main roles is to prepare wickets, Tony.
Yes, it is. I mean, particularly in the summertime, it's a fairly complicated exercise preparing wickets at all sorts of different levels, and it's a task of my role that I really enjoy.
And how long have you been involved here, and what sort of progress have you made through the ranks to your current position?
Well, I've been making the wickets or the head curator at the MCG since 1990. I followed Peter Seamos, who was only here for a short time, and then I was making test wickets when he was here for 2 or 3 years, so it was a good apprenticeship for a little time. And then when he left in 90, I was lucky enough to be appointed curator at the MCG.
Now the practice wickets use the same soil, everything is the same out on the practice wickets as the centre wicket?
Yes, it is. I mean, our preparation is exactly the same for practice wickets as what it is for the centre pitch. I mean, we try and make both identical so that players can come down here and get a good head out 2 or 3 days before the match and know that the conditions are going to be pretty much the same. And that's particularly important with international sides that are coming out here trying to get used to Australian conditions. I mean, we very much try and help them out through that as much as we can. Now, some cope a little better than others, and I think probably one of the weaknesses that Pakistan and India have had this whole series, that they've had a little bit of difficulty adjusting to the bounce and pace of Australian wickets.
I noticed during one day, the first final was Makram came out, I think Intakab Alam had a good look at the pitch before the match, and he was down on his hands and knees almost praying to it. Do the touring parties come and speak to you about the wickets and what it may or may not do, the properties of it?
Yeah, they do. They ask us about it, but I'm not sure they fully understand what we tell them. I mean, because they have their own preset ideas about what the pitches are like in Pakistan or in India, and when you say that an Australian pitch might behave a little differently, sometimes they don't always accept that. But generally, you know, there's some fairly good readers of pitches. I mean, Mike Gadding was a great reader of a pitch, and so was Javed Miandad. So some of them have just got a knack of knowing how pitches are going to behave, and others don't. But we generally try and give players as much information as we can about wickets. And we also try and produce wickets that are consistent, so that if somebody's playing here today, they know what the wicket's like. If they're coming here next week, they also have a fairly good idea of what the wicket will be like next week. So it's really on more how it plays, you know, if you have a consistent pace and bounce in a wicket over the whole summer.
And the wickets do vary from one days to test matches. The other night, referring back to the first final again, a number of commentators said it was like glass. It was very, very smooth and shiny. It
was very hard. What I do for the one days is we take all the grass off the wicket, because if we have a little bit of variation between a grassy spot and a non-grassy spot, and we happen to keep covers on a wicket, the grassy spot will behave differently to the bare bit. So the safest thing for us to do is really take all the grass off the wicket so that it becomes very consistent surface. And that's the way that a technique we've used for the last couple of years so that we can get good even in pace and bounce in the wickets. We also find that our soil is hard enough by nature that we'll still get good pace and carry. We don't get balls running along the ground as actually used to happen here in the mid-80s. We've done a lot of work on our wickets trying to get them so that we think they present as a really good one-day wicket.
As far as the test matches go, of course, the Boxing Day test is a great date on the Australian sporting calendar. How far in advance do you start preparing your Boxing Day wicket?
Well, Boxing Day, most of my wickets I take about 2 weeks to prepare. A test wicket we will start maybe 2.5 weeks, just so that we don't get caught with some bad weather or something might happen, so it gives us a couple of days up our sleeve. The test wicket this year came together really quickly. I mean, as soon as we started to prepare it, we knew that it just looked like a really good wicket. It was very even grass cover on it. And then over a 2-week period, we'll wet it, and then we try and roll it to flatten the surface out as much as we can so we get our wickets dead flat. And then our basic objective to preparing a test wicket is to then dry it out as slowly as we can. And then with a good grass cover on the top, the wickets then bind together and they become a very solid mass of clay. And even with grass on them, as you said before, we can still have a really shiny surface on a test wicket. And we achieved that this year and it gave us an excellent result.
What sort of grass is it that's on these pitches?
This is couch grass or Bermuda grass, which is a summer grass. I mean, Melbourne's climate is not the greatest to grow this grass, but we managed to, at least by Christmas time, to have a good coverage. The reason it's good is that it'll withstand the rigours of cricket. I mean, we've got a black soil here that's 55% clay content. We roll out with a 2-ton roller. We do everything to a grass surface that we shouldn't do. So to prepare a test, we basically kill the grass. Now, couch grass is a grass that'll still provide a really good surface for us and be able to recover. And it's really a grass that's used on most warm season countries around the world. India, Pakistan use it, West Indies use it. New Zealand use a cool season grass because they follow the English tradition, which is also a cool season grass, but they try and very much do the same sort of techniques as we do of providing a really good even grass cover, and then you're well on the way to preparing a half-decent test wicket.
In some of the past seasons we've seen some enormous cracks opening up on the Ware, but cracking maybe to a lesser degree is something you do work towards though, as part of the wicket?
Yes, I mean for the test match wicket to change its character over 5 days, it requires that the soil, as it dries, it shrinks, and that's exactly what happens. So we do get some cracking in wickets, and to a degree that's absolutely essential to allow some variation to occur in the wickets, so that you can have spinners or medium pacers coming into the match in the last 2, 3 or 4 or 5th day. And then the soil also crumbles slightly. Ours doesn't crumble as much as perhaps Sydney would, so we don't turn as much as they do, but we certainly dry it out enough and there's enough grip so that spinners are also involved in the game. And I actually think that our soil is the right sort of soil to prepare good wickets on, because it enables those 3 aspects while still providing.
Because whoever prepares the wicket are sometimes accused of water on the pitch or so on to maybe disrupt the path of a game, and of course we hear stories of even test matches in other countries around the world, maybe pitches are rigged. Unheard of in Australia?
Yeah, unheard of in Australia. Look, I've heard stories as well, and I've seen some unbelievable techniques of wicket preparation around the world. I mean, the West Indies, for instance, I've seen them fire their wickets to dry them out, you know, put a fuel on them and actually burn them. So there's a lot of things that we would think are just absolutely unheard of in Australia that become normal preparation techniques in overseas countries. Some curators, I guess, in India and Pakistan and some of those places just prepare differently. There are plenty of things that people can do to wickets, I guess, but I don't think anything's happened in Australia.
And talking about doing things to wickets, do you turn up your eyebrows when Tony Greig digs his key in, or is that accepted practice these days?
Well, I don't mind, to be honest, because I mean, you know, Channel 9 are a media where they can convey some information to the public. So I mean, if you talk about if that's an indication of how hard or how soft a wicket is, and that helps the public become educated, I mean, I'm all for it. I'm just annoyed when players or officials or anyone out there might want to take keys out of the pocket and think they have a right to put holes all up and down the wicket, because one of the things that does happen, particularly in the first day of a match, if we've got a little bit of moisture left in the surface, which we often try to do, is that if there's a scratch in the wicket or something, you can get a crack line starting to develop along that scratch or that hole. So we try and keep the wicket as a solid block and not mark too much. And ICC have even brought down some rules that players and officials can't walk on the wickets at all without asking us, and I think that's a good rule because it just helps preserve the integrity of the wicket.
The wicket here at the MCG is about to undergo a renovation, shall we say. You've got some pitches on the boil outside the ground, yes, and they're about to be lifted in a huge operation in the next few days. Yeah,
that's correct. We've the centre wicket as we know it at the MCG is gone. In a couple of days we're going to start to excavate the centre. Now, there's 2 reasons for that. One is we have a requirement with Olympic soccer to take the wicket out. They won't play Olympic soccer or FIFA over the top of a centre wicket. And the other one is that because we're used so heavily during the football season, football damages our centre square quite markedly. So we're going to use portable wicket technology, which will be mature grasses and mature wicket blocks and a nice clean black soil. And we think it'll give us a much better test wicket and shield wicket for that matter, with the limitations of a lot of footy. And portable wickets are the next stage for us.
So the portable wickets, the process from day one, how long does it take to prepare one ready to go into the centre?
Well, we have 2 that are mature. One's out in the middle that we played Western Australia on this year, and it was a fantastic result. It was a really good wicket. We've just completed 4 that are sitting on a top portable practice wicket area. They're in a frame, they're encased in a galvanised frame, and we pick those up with a big crane and we put them on the back of an extendable semi-trailer. We take them around the perimeter of the MCG and that out into the centre. So we dig the hole out in the middle and we'll drop the wickets in, and then we'll repair the area around the outside. And they ought to be ready for play within 1 or 2 days of installation. So it gives us a huge advantage in the way we manage the place.
Well, Tony, a lot of scribes gave you Man of the Match award for the Boxing Day test for the work you did, considering it was raining. We love seeing the curator, I can't remember his name, up in Brisbane, but he seems to always predict the weather, and even before it starts raining, he's out on the wicket often.
Yes, Kevin Mitchell in Brisbane has been known to drive out there and hunt the players and the umpires off, and his father did the same a few years ago, and we just tend to rev the tractor up and tell them it's time to move. Now, the staff work very hard during the test match. One of the things that we have an advantage with now is we're on radar contact with the Weather Bureau, so we knew on during the test match that there was a big storm coming, and we'd spoken to the umpires and told them, look, if there's any rain around or a few showers, we need to get off as soon as we can. And they were fantastic. I mean, David Shepherd was great in doing that and got off. We had a couple of false alarms, but eventually when it rained, I mean, it was the right decision. We got the covers on in time. And
art of wicket preparation, there's a lot to it. I guess most spectators just walk into the ground on the day and look at their gun players and so on and just hope that the pitch works, so to speak. So congratulations on a job well done over many years, and all the best in the future. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much.